Grace's hands shook as she carried the tray full of expensive wine bottles. The whole restaurant became quiet, except for one sound, a little boy crying his heart out. She looked over at the corner table in the back where all the waiters had been told never to go. The child cried louder and louder, sounding more and more upset. She watched the man holding him, a very handsome man in a gray suit, looking more confused and lost than any powerful person should ever look. Their eyes met across the busy room. His eyes were dark brown, tired, and asking for help. Before her boss could stop her, Grace was already walking toward the table she wasn't supposed to go near. She didn't know the man was Gabriel Russo, the most dangerous crime boss in New York. She only knew that no child should cry like that. If you want to find out how the story started and what happened next, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment saying where you're watching from. Each view helps bring more stories like this one. The grease stains on Grace's work uniform wouldn't come out no matter how hard she scrubbed. She'd worked the morning shift at the diner in Brooklyn, rushed home to take a shower, and now stood in the bathroom of Bellissimo, the fanciest Italian restaurant in Manhattan, trying to look nice for her evening shift. Looking in the mirror showed the truth she tried to hide. She was exhausted. You could see it in the dark circles under her green eyes. Her blonde hair was pulled back so tight it gave her a headache. She was 25 years old but felt much older. Grace, table 6 needs their wine. Marco, the head waiter, snapped his fingers at her. She grabbed the tray and moved through the fancy dining room. The restaurant was full of old-world luxury, crystal light fixtures, white tablecloths, the smell of fancy mushrooms and money thick in the air. She didn't belong here. Every day reminded her of that. The evening had been crazy busy since 6 o'clock. Politicians, celebrities, people whose watches cost more than her whole year's rent. Grace moved between tables carefully, smiling politely while her feet hurt badly. At 9:30, everything changed. The restaurant's big wooden doors opened and silence spread through the room like a stone dropped in still water. Grace looked up from pouring water and felt her breath stop. 6 men in black suits entered first, their eyes looking around the room like hunters. Then he walked in. Grace had never seen someone take over a space just by being there. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair perfectly styled, and a jaw that looked like it was carved from stone. The gray suit fit him perfectly, but it was his eyes that made her heart skip. They were amber, like whiskey, beautiful and dangerous. A small boy held onto his neck, face buried in the man's shoulder. "Mio Dio," she heard Marco whisper next to her. "That's Gabriel Russo." Grace didn't know that name, but she understood fear. Every waiter had pressed themselves against the walls. Even the owner, Giovanni, had come out from the kitchen, rubbing his hands nervously. "Who is he?" Grace whispered. Marco stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "Just stay away from that table. Do not go near it. Do not look at him. Understand?" But Grace was already watching the child. The boy couldn't be more than 3 years old, dressed in tiny dress pants and a button-down shirt. As his father tried to sit him down in the corner booth, the child's whimpers turned into loud screams. "Luca, per favor." The man's voice was deep and commanding even though he sounded desperate. "Papa needs you to be brave." The boy's cries only got louder. Grace's heart hurt. She knew that sound, grief and loss. The kind of crying that came from somewhere deep and broken inside. Gabriel Russo tried everything. He offered food, promised ice cream, pulled out a toy car from his pocket. Nothing worked. The child screamed like his whole world was ending. The other people eating dinner looked uncomfortable. Some whispered. A few started asking for their bills. Grace watched the powerful man fall apart. He held his son close, whispering in Italian, his broad shoulders curving inward like he was trying to protect the boy from the world. She'd taken 2 steps toward them before her brain caught up with her feet. "Grace," Marco hissed. "Stop." She didn't stop. The bodyguards moved right away, blocking her path. One put a hand on her shoulder, not rough, but firm. "Miss, step back." "I just want to help," Grace said quietly, her eyes on the crying child. Gabriel Russo's voice cut through the noise. "Let her through." The bodyguards moved aside like the Red Sea parting. Grace walked up to the table slowly, her heart pounding. Up close, Gabriel Russo was even more overwhelming. The sharp angles of his face, the expensive cologne, the raw power that came off him like heat. But she focused on the child. "Hi there," she said softly, kneeling down to be at eye level with the boy. "My name is Grace." Luca's crying stuttered. He peeked at her from his father's shoulder, his little face red and covered with tears. "That's a lot of big feelings for such a little guy," Grace continued in a gentle voice. "It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry." "Please," Gabriel said, and the desperation in his voice broke something in her chest. "He's been like this for weeks. Nothing helps. The doctors say he's grieving, that he needs time." Grace's eyes met his and she saw it, the matching grief he was barely holding in. His mother. Gabriel's nod was almost impossible to see. Understanding flooded through her. The expensive suit couldn't hide how tired he was, the helplessness of a man who could control everything except his son's pain. "Luca," Grace said softly, "did you know that when my little brother was sad, we used to count stars together?" The crying had turned into hiccups. Luca was watching her now, his dark eyes curious even though there were tears. "Your papa looks really strong. I bet he could hold you up high enough to touch the ceiling. Would you like that?" Luca's small hand unclenched from his father's shirt. "Grace," Gabriel breathed, his voice rough with something that sounded like amazement. She smiled at the boy. "But first, you have to take a deep breath with me. Can you do that? Breathe in." She showed him. Luca copied her. And out. The child's breathing got steadier. The crying stopped. The entire restaurant seemed to let out its breath. "There we go," Grace whispered. "You're so brave." "He just needs a mother," she said quietly, the words slipping out before she could stop them. Her eyes got wide. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean." "You're right." Gabriel's voice was barely above a whisper. He was staring at her like she'd done a miracle. "He does." Luca reached for her. Grace's breath caught as the little boy's arms stretched out toward her. "Please," Gabriel said. That single word from a man who clearly never begged for anything. "Just for a moment." She held out her arms. Luca practically jumped into them, his small body warm against her chest. He wrapped his arms around her neck and let out a big sigh, like he'd been holding his breath for months. Grace's eyes burned with unexpected tears. She rubbed small circles on his back, swaying gently. "It's okay, sweet boy." When she looked up, Gabriel was watching her with an expression she couldn't name, hunger, maybe, or hope. Something that made her skin flush and her heart race. "What's your full name?" he asked. "Grace Mitchell." "Grace Mitchell," he repeated, like he was memorizing it. "How did you do that?" "I just understood what he needed." "And what does he need?" She met his eyes. To know someone sees his pain, that it's okay not to be okay. Something changed in Gabriel's expression, a crack in the armor. "I need you," he said simply. Grace's pulse jumped. "What?" "To help with Luca. Name your price." "I'm not for sale." His lips twitched. "Everyone has a price, Grace Mitchell. I have 2 jobs already. And I'll pay you more than both combined. Triple it." He leaned forward. "You have a gift with him. I've watched 17 nannies fail. You calmed him in 60 seconds. I'm not a nanny. I'm a waitress." "You're whatever you need to be to survive," he said. The fact that he was right stole her breath. "I understand that. So understand this. My son needs you, and I protect what he needs." It should have sounded like a threat. Instead, it sounded like a promise. Luca had fallen asleep against her shoulder. Grace looked down at him and felt something click into place. "I'll think about it," she whispered. Gabriel pulled a card from his jacket, heavy black cardstock with silver letters, just a phone number. "You have until tomorrow morning," he said. Their fingers brushed as she took the card, and electricity shot up her arm. "Don't make me wait too long, Bella." The Italian pet name rolled off his tongue like silk. "I'm not a patient man." He stood, gently taking his sleeping son from her arms. For a moment, they formed a strange picture, the crime boss, the waitress, and the sleeping child between them. Then Gabriel Russo walked out of the restaurant, his guards falling into formation around him. Grace stood frozen, the black card burning in her pocket. She didn't know that by tomorrow, everything would change. She only knew that when Gabriel Russo looked at her, she felt seen for the first time in years. And God help her, she wanted to feel it again. Grace didn't sleep that night. She sat in her tiny studio apartment, 4th floor, no elevator, leaky ceiling, staring at the black card on her coffee table like it might explode. Her roommate, Christina, had Googled Gabriel Russo and spent an hour showing Grace everything they found: news articles about possible criminal activity, photos of him at charity events, always alone since his wife died, whispered rumors about the Russo family's control over New York's underground crime world. "You're insane if you call him," Christina said. "He's literally the Mafia, Grace. He's a father who needs help. He's a killer." Grace thought about the exhaustion in Gabriel's eyes, the desperate love in how he held his son. Maybe he's both. At 5 o'clock in the morning, she called the number. He answered on the first ring. "I knew you would call." Gabriel's voice was rough with sleep. "Can't sleep either?" "I have conditions," Grace said. "I'm listening. I'll help with Luca 3 days a week. I keep my restaurant job the other days. And if at any point I think this isn't working, I walk away. No questions, no consequences." Silence stretched between them. When he spoke again, his voice had changed, harder. "You think I'd hurt you for leaving? I don't know what you'd do. That's the problem." Another pause. Then, surprisingly, "Fair enough. I agree to your terms with one addition." "What?" "You don't walk away without giving me a reason. If something's wrong, you tell me. I can't fix what I don't understand." The vulnerability in that statement caught her off guard. "Okay. My driver will pick you up at 9 o'clock. Wear comfortable clothes. Luca likes to play outside." "Wait, today? You had all night to prepare, Grace. And I told you I'm not a patient man." The call ended. At exactly 9 o'clock, a black SUV pulled up outside her building. The driver opened the door without a word. The Russo estate sat behind iron gates and tall walls. As they drove through, Grace's jaw dropped. The mansion spread across what must have been an entire city block: stone fronts, perfectly trimmed gardens, a fountain in the driveway that cost more than her entire existence. The front door opened before she could knock. An older woman with sharp eyes stood waiting. "Miss Mitchell, I'm Rosa, the house manager. Mr. Russo is expecting you." The inside was overwhelming: marble floors, crystal light fixtures, artwork that belonged in museums. Grace followed Rosa through rooms that could swallow her apartment whole. They found Gabriel in a huge living room, sitting on the floor in his suit pants and white dress shirt. Luca was having a complete meltdown, throwing toy cars across the room while screaming. Gabriel looked up as Grace entered, and the relief that crossed his face was almost painful to see. "Thank God," he breathed. "He's been like this since he woke up." Grace set down her bag and walked calmly into the chaos. She sat on the floor a few feet from Luca, not going closer, just being there. "That looks like a lot of mad," she said in a normal voice. "Big, huge, enormous mad." Luca threw another car. "I get mad too, sometimes," Grace continued. "Yesterday, I was so mad at my broken refrigerator that I wanted to throw it out the window. But it was too heavy, so I ate ice cream for dinner instead." Luca's screaming softened to angry huffs. "Your papa looks pretty worried. See his face? That's his worried face." The boy glanced at his father, then quickly looked away. "I bet if you used words instead of throwing, he'd understand better. Want to try?" Luca's little face scrunched up. "Mama," he whispered. "Want mama?" Grace's heart shattered. She glanced at Gabriel, who'd gone completely still. "I know, sweetheart," Grace said softly. "I bet you miss her so much it hurts." Luca nodded, tears streaming down his cheeks. "It's okay to miss her. It's okay to be sad and mad. Your mama loved you so much, didn't she?" Another nod. "She'd want you to be happy again someday. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. Until then, your papa is here. He's pretty big and strong. Think he could give good hugs?" Luca looked at his father, uncertain. Gabriel's voice cracked. "The best hugs, Piccolo. I promise." The boy launched himself at his father. Gabriel caught him, holding tight, his eyes squeezed shut as Luca sobbed against his chest. Grace started to stand to give them privacy, but Gabriel's hand shot out and caught her wrist. "Stay," he said hoarsely. "Please." So she stayed, watching a crime boss cry silent tears into his son's hair. After Luca fell asleep, Gabriel carried him upstairs. Grace waited until Rosa brought her tea. "He hasn't cried since she died," Rosa said quietly. "Mr. Russo, he's been stone. But you made him feel again." When Gabriel returned, he'd changed into dark jeans and a black t-shirt that showed the edge of a tattoo on his neck. He looked younger like this, less scary. "I need a drink," he said. "Join me." Grace followed him to his study, leather, dark wood, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. "I don't usually drink during the day," Grace said. "I don't usually fall apart in front of strangers." He drank deeply. "You're dangerous, Grace Mitchell." "I'm the opposite of dangerous. That's what makes you so lethal." He moved closer. "You slip past defenses without trying. You make people feel things they've buried. Maybe that's not a bad thing. In my world, feelings get you killed. Then maybe your world is wrong." Gabriel laughed, short, sharp, surprised. "You have no idea what my world is like." "You're right, I don't. But I know Luca needs more than a father who's turned himself to stone." They stared at each other, the air crackling with tension. Gabriel's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his entire manner changed, shoulders straightening, jaw hardening. "I need to handle something," he said. "Rosa will show you Luca's room, his schedule. I'll be back before dinner. Is everything okay?" His smile was sharp. "Just business, Bella. Nothing for you to worry about." But as he walked past her, he paused, his hand hovering near her cheek without quite touching. "Thank you for today. It's my job now." "No." His amber eyes bored into hers. "This stopped being just a job the moment you held my son." He left, taking 6 armed men with him, and Grace stood alone, wondering what kind of business needed that much firepower. She was learning that Gabriel Russo had 2 faces, the gentle father and the ruthless boss. And God help her, she was drawn to both. 3 weeks passed like a dream. Grace fell into a rhythm. 3 days with Luca, 3 days at the restaurant, 1 day trying to remember what sleep felt like. The money Gabriel paid her was crazy high. She'd already paid off her credit card debt and had enough left over to fix her car. But money wasn't why she stayed. Luca was transforming. He smiled now, laughed even. He'd started calling her Gracie in his sweet voice. They developed routines, breakfast together, playing in the garden, reading stories before nap time. And Gabriel was the problem. He came home earlier now, joined them for dinner, sat with them during bedtime stories, his large body squeezed into a child-sized chair. Grace caught him watching her constantly, when she danced with Luca to silly songs, when she wiped juice off his chin, when she simply existed in his space. The attraction between them had grown from a spark to a wildfire. "You're staring again," Grace said one evening after Luca had gone to sleep. They were in the garden, the city lights glittering below them. "Can't help it." Gabriel's voice was rough. He'd had several drinks, and his defenses were down. "You've brought light back into this house. Into him. Into me. Gabriel, do you know how long it's been since I felt anything besides rage and grief?" He moved closer. 8 months. Then you walked into that restaurant and looked at me like I was human. You are human. I'm a monster, Grace. I've done things that would make you run screaming. Then why haven't you told me what they are? He laughed darkly. Because I'm selfish. Because I want you to keep looking at me the way you do, like I'm worth saving. Everyone is worth saving. Careful, Bella. That optimism will get you hurt. His hand came up, finally making contact, his fingers tracing her cheekbone. Especially around me. Grace should have pulled away, should have remembered that this man was dangerous, that she was an employee, that this was insane. Instead, she leaned into his touch. I'm not afraid of you. You should be. But because you run a criminal empire? Because people fear you? She met his eyes. I've seen you cut Luca's sandwich into dinosaur shapes. I've watched you panic over a scraped knee. I've heard you sing Italian lullabies off-key. That's who I'm afraid of, the man who makes me feel things I shouldn't. Gabriel's thumb brushed her lower lip and she gasped. Grace, he warned. If you don't walk away right now, I'm not walking anywhere. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was months of grief and loneliness and desperate need poured into the touch of lips and hands and breath. Grace melted into him, her fingers tangling in his hair as he pulled her closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Gabriel pressed his forehead to hers. This is dangerous, he whispered. I know. You deserve better than me. I'll decide what I deserve. He pulled back to look at her, amber eyes burning. You're under my protection now. You understand what that means? That you'll keep me safe? That I'll burn the world down if anyone touches you. It should have scared her. Instead, warmth bloomed in her chest. Glass shattered somewhere in the house. Shouts erupted. Gabriel's entire body went rigid. He shoved Grace behind him, a gun appearing in his hand from seemingly nowhere. Stay behind me, he commanded. This was the crime boss. Cold, deadly, efficient. They moved through the house. More shouting. Rosa screaming. They burst into the foyer to find 5 men in black masks. One held Rosa with a knife to her throat. Another had Luca. The boy screamed and reached for his father. Grace's blood went cold. Russo, one of the masked men said, "We've been waiting." "Let them go," Gabriel's voice was Arctic death. "This is between us. No. This is about sending a message. You killed our boss's brother. Now we take what you love." The man holding Luca moved toward the door. Everything happened in slow motion. Gabriel raised his gun. The other masked men raised theirs. Rosa sobbed. Luca screamed. And Grace did the stupidest, bravest thing of her life. She ran toward Luca. "No!" Gabriel roared. Gunshots exploded through the foyer. Grace felt something hot tear across her arm, but she didn't stop. She reached Luca, ripping him from the masked man's grip, and threw herself to the floor, curling around the boy's body. More gunshots. Shouting. The thunder of footsteps as Gabriel's security team flooded the house. Then silence. Strong hands pulled Grace up. She clutched Luca tightly, feeling his heart pounding against hers. "You're okay, baby. You're okay. I've got you." "Grace." Gabriel's voice cracked. He was in front of her, blood splattered across his face and shirt. "Grace, you're bleeding." She looked down. Blood soaked her sleeve, but Luca was unharmed. That was all that mattered. "I'm okay," she said. "He's fine. Because of you." Gabriel's hands were shaking as he reached for them both, pulling them against his chest. "Madonna Santa, Grace. You could have been killed." "So could he." "But you," he couldn't finish. His arms tightened around them. "You beautiful, stupid, brave woman." Paramedics arrived. Police came and went without asking questions. Grace noticed that. As a doctor bandaged Grace's arm, just a graze, nothing serious, she watched Gabriel hold Luca, whispering in Italian, his hands checking every inch of his son. When he finally set the boy down with Rosa, he turned to Grace with an expression that stole her breath. "You saved my son. Anyone would have." "No." He crossed to her in 3 strides. "No one else would have. You put yourself between him and bullets." He kissed her again, different this time, softer, deeper, like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. "I love you," he whispered against her lips. "I know it's insane. I know it's too soon. But watching you almost die made me realize I love you. I'm terrified of it, but I love you. And I love you too." His smile was blinding. "That's even more terrifying." "I know." They laughed, and it felt like release, like joy, like coming home. Luca toddled over, grabbing both their hands. "Gracie, stay." Grace looked at Gabriel. He looked at her. "Always," they said together. The next morning, Grace woke up in a guest room, her arm properly bandaged, wearing borrowed silk pajamas, surrounded by luxury. She found Gabriel in his study on the phone, speaking rapid Italian. When he saw her, his expression softened and he ended the call immediately. You should be resting. I'm fine, Gabriel. We need to talk about last night. He poured coffee, handed her a cup. I've tripled security. No one will get close again. That's not what I mean. Those men, they came because of you, because of what you do. Yes. The simple admission hung between them. Grace sat down carefully. Tell me the truth. All of it. Gabriel was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was stripped of all pretense. My family has controlled organized crime in New York for 3 generations. I inherited the empire when I was 23 and my father was murdered. I've killed people, Grace. Ordered deaths. Broken laws that would put me in prison for life. He met her eyes. I'm exactly what you fear. A criminal. A mobster. The monster everyone thinks I am. Grace processed this. Luca's mother. How did she die? Pain flickered across his face. Car bomb meant for me. She was 8 months pregnant with our second child. They both, he stopped. I destroyed that rival family. Every single member. Jesus, Gabriel. This is my world. If you stay, his voice roughened. If you stay, you become part of this. Luca already loves you. He turned away. I won't watch another woman I love die because of me. Grace stood, moved to him, forced him to look at her. Don't I get a choice in this? You don't understand the risk. Then explain it to me. Show me your world. Let me decide if I'm strong enough. Grace, I jumped in front of bullets for your son. You think I did that on impulse? I did it because I'm already in this, Gabriel. I fell in love with both of you, and I don't regret it. So stop trying to protect me by pushing me away. His hands cupped her face, his forehead pressing to hers. You're the bravest person I've ever met. Or the stupidest. That too. He smiled, but it faded quickly. If you stay, there are rules. You don't go anywhere without security. You learn to shoot. You tell me everything, any threats, anything unusual. Okay. I mean it, Grace. In my world, information keeps you alive. I understand. And he hesitated. You should know that other families will see you as weakness. They'll see Luca as leverage. What you did last night will make you famous. Grace Mitchell, the waitress who took a bullet for Gabriel Russo's son. I didn't take a bullet. I got grazed. Don't minimize what you did. His grip tightened. You're a hero. My hero. Luca's hero. And now you're also a target. The weight of that settled over her. I'm still not leaving. Stubborn woman. You love it. I do. God help me, I do. Over the next week, Grace's life transformed completely. She quit the restaurant, Gabriel's insistence. Moved into the mansion, you're safer here. Started training with his security team. She also learned about Gabriel's legitimate businesses, real estate, restaurants, construction. Not everything he did was illegal. The man was a study in contradictions. Ruthless boss and gentle father, feared killer and generous philanthropist. You donate millions to children's hospitals, Grace said one evening. Guilt money, he replied from where he was reading to Luca. Or maybe you're not as bad as you think. Don't romanticize me, Bella. I'm still a monster. A monster who cries at Disney movies. Once. I cried once. 3 times. I counted. Luca giggled and Gabriel shot Grace a pretend glare that was completely undermined by his smile. These moments, domesticity mixed with danger, became her new normal. She also met the other families at a dinner Gabriel hosted. Grace found herself surrounded by Mafia wives who welcomed her warmly. We heard what you did, one woman said, protecting the child. Gabriel chose well. We're not, Grace started. Oh honey, the woman laughed, that man looks at you like you hung the moon. Trust me, you're already his. That night, after everyone left, Gabriel found Grace on the balcony, overwhelmed. Your world is nothing like I imagined. Disappointed? Fascinated? She turned to face him. They all respect you, even fear you, but they also trust you. He smiled. You see the best in everyone. I see the truth. She moved closer. You're a good man in impossible circumstances. You make it sound noble. It's not. Maybe not, but it's human, and that's enough for me. Gabriel pulled a small box from his pocket. Grace's breath caught. I know it's fast, he said. I know this world is insane and I'm asking you to dive into danger every day. But Grace, he opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring surrounded by emeralds. I don't want to waste another second. Life is too short, too fragile. Marry me. Be Luca's mother. Be my wife. Let me spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you. Grace's eyes filled with tears. Yes. You didn't even think about it. I've been thinking about it since the moment you kissed me. Yes, Gabriel. Yes to all of it. He slid the ring on her finger with shaking hands, then pulled her into a kiss that tasted like promise and forever. I'll keep you safe, he whispered. I swear it. I know. But I'll also keep you safe. That's what partners do. Partners, he repeated like the word was new. I like that. They stood there wrapped in each other, the city glittering below them, their future bright despite the shadows. Inside, Luca slept peacefully, finally healing, finally happy. And Grace realized that sometimes love didn't arrive quietly. Sometimes it exploded into your life in the form of a crying child and a desperate father. Sometimes the most dangerous choice was the one that saved you. 3 years later, Grace stood in the garden watching Luca, now 6 years old, play with his baby sister, Isabella. The little girl toddled after her brother, giggling as he made silly faces. Mama, watch this. Luca called, doing a cartwheel. Beautiful baby, Grace laughed. She was Mama now. Had been since the wedding 2 years ago. Strong arms wrapped around her waist from behind. Gabriel's chin rested on her shoulder, his hands settling protectively over her stomach where their third child grew. Happy, he murmured. Impossibly so. Even with the bodyguards and the danger. Especially with all that. She turned in his arms. You kept your promise. You've kept us safe. Built us a family. You built it, Bella. I just provided the walls. You filled them with love. They'd created a life together, messy, complicated, but undeniably theirs. Gabriel had even stepped back from the more dangerous aspects of his business, focusing on legitimate enterprises for his children. For her, he'd never be entirely clean, that wasn't how their world worked. But he was trying, and that meant everything. I love you, Grace said. My dangerous, wonderful man. I love you more. He replied, kissing her softly. My brave, stubborn, perfect wife. Luca ran over and crashed into their legs. Isabella followed, and Gabriel scooped them both up, making them squeal with laughter. Grace watched her family, her impossible, perfect family, and thought about that night in the restaurant when a little boy wouldn't stop crying. She'd walked toward danger without thinking. She'd said yes to love without hesitation. And it had given her everything. Sometimes the best stories begin with the bravest choice. Sometimes you have to step into the unknown to find your home. And sometimes a crying child leads you to exactly where you're meant to be. This story has come to an end. If it touched your heart in any way, leave your like and share with someone who also enjoys emotional stories. New stories coming soon. Until next time.